I'm Charlie from CookingSecretsForMen.com. Well, it's time for another international collab. This month we're exploring the cuisine of Mexico. Hashtag Comida Mexicana. We'll have that down here in the screen and also in the description box. And there's 17 talented YouTube chefs showing off their best Mexican dishes and recipes. Make sure you check them out too. Their information will also be listed in the description box below. I'm reminded of a story about Mexican food that I found amusing. Many years ago, my wife and I were in Zihuatanejo, which you may remember from both the Stephen King book and the movie by the same name, Shawshank Redemption. So we were on an excursion outside of Zihuatanejo with several young couples. I was young at the time too. They were talking about dinner, and that evening, one of the guys said he wanted to get some real Mexican food. So they should just head to Ixtapa and go to Chi-Chi's. Anyway, to this day, it always makes me chuckle. You know, real Mexican food at Chi-Chi's. So we're not doing Tex-Mex. This is strictly Mexican recipes. There's a difference between Tex-Mex and authentic Mexican food. Tex-Mex is similar to Mexican cuisine, but they're not the same. Tex-Mex is more a mixture of Texan and Mexican food. So traditional Mexican menu dishes usually do not include things like queso dip, fajitas, nachos, chimichangas, or hard shell tacos. Why? Because they're inventions belonging to Tex-Mex. So I'm going to be making a Mexican roasted poblano soup. Poblanos are great. They're usually available in most grocery stores. As I mentioned in the video, I was served this soup at a friend's villa in Puerto Vallarta. As I'm wont to do, I asked the chef from the villa for the recipe so I could recreate it on my YouTube channel. He walked me through the recipe, and so here's my recreation of an authentic Mexican roasted poblano soup for our international collab, hashtag Comida Mexicana. Hello there. Today we're going to be making a roasted poblano soup. Some friends of ours, Julie and Mark Darnieder, were kind enough to take us to Mexico a couple years ago, where they have a wonderful cook who made this soup. He gave me the recipe, so I've tried to emulate it a couple times, and I think I'm pretty close. So these are poblano peppers. They're fairly mild. When dried, they are the ancho chili. So you get ancho chili powder. That comes from a dried poblano. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to roast these for about a half an hour, 15 minutes on each side. And we're just going to put them in the oven as is. And then we'll be back. So while the poblanos are roasting, we're going to make the base of the soup. So the first thing we have is one chopped onion. Put that in. We've put in 3 tablespoons of butter. That's the oil that's heating. This is about 4 chopped minced garlic cloves. Put those in. We'll stir this. I'm going to cook these down so they get a little translucent. Doesn't really matter how big you make these, because we're going to use our Immersion Blender to take care of the big pieces of both the peppers and the onions. Now that the onions have caramelized a little bit and the garlic is nice and fragrant, we'll put in a little salt and pepper, and we're going to add in our stock. Now I'm using chicken stock. If you want to make this a vegetarian soup, use vegetable stock. And while this is boiling, we're going to prepare the poblanos. See, they got a little char on them. So we're going to let these cool a little bit, and then we're going to cut them and then start making the soup. So our poblanos have cooled, and what we're going to try to do is take as much skin off as possible with a little paring knife. The skin, as you can see, will just kind of peel off. We'll get as much of that off as we can. And then we're also going to cut off the tops, and we're going to get rid of the seeds. So we'll do this for all of them, and we're going to chop them, put them in the soup. Alright, so we have taken all the seeds and the tops off. We're going to cut the poblanos into more manageable hunks, and then they're going to go right into the soup. Right now we're going to take the poblanos, just put them right into the soup that's been simmering for about 8 to 10 minutes now. Turn this up a little bit. And we'll stir. Get the poblanos nice and hot. We'll cook this for a couple minutes, and then we'll use our immersion blender. If you don't have one of these little babies, you should think about getting one. They're so handy. Everything will work. Now the trick to this is to make sure that you are pointing the blade away from you, not towards you, because it can splash and this is hot. Now as you can see, it's getting a creamy consistency without any cream, without any flour. So we're going to let this cook a little bit. We may run the blender a little bit longer, but for the most part, the soup is pretty much done. The soup is cooked down a little bit, nice and creamy. The cream comes from the butter and the immersion blender. You don't really need to add anything else other than that. So to serve, we get a ladle full, put it in a bowl, a little bit more because I'm hungry. Alright, I'll top with some cilantro leaves, and then a little dollop of sour cream, maybe another one. So there you have it. Creamy poblano soup, roasted poblanos. Very, very tasty. It's got a little bit of heat to it, but it's not super spicy. Gluten-free, vegetarian meal. Hope you enjoy. See you again next time.